Some interesting details regarding some tax rules have just come about regarding real estate and some of the tax rules regarding the housing market and if you're purchasing or selling specifically a property, there could be tax obligations that could hinder some of the profit lines that you have regarding the transaction. So today we're going to go through what that means as far as the new information that has come up regarding this issue. And it seems as if some of the people in Congress wants to revisit some of these rules because they're seeming a bit outdated and they should be revisited, especially with the way the market is currently and how it's affecting real estate transactions. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we move forward, I'd like to just um, say a small disclaimer. I am not a tax professional. This video is for educational purposes only. If you are thinking about selling or buying property, when it comes to your tax bracket and some of your tax obligations that you may see yourself having to pay, you're going to want to talk to a professional in your area regarding that. So I just wanted to put that out there. We're just going through this information for educational purposes only. So, outdated tax rules are freezing the housing market and it's about to get way worse. This article came out June 9th, so it just came out a few days ago, and it has some details that we're going to probably want to know about. It's been nearly 30 years since Congress revisited the capital gains exclusion on the sale of a home. If they want to stimulate home sales, now is the time. Because of stagnation in property sales, you have to consider that one of the issues that homeowners are thinking about as well when it comes to selling a property is what type of tax bill they'll be hit with. A large tax bill, a hefty tax bill is not uncommon. And this is another thing that homeowners have to consider in this market when deciding if to sell their property or not at this time. On top of everything else, as far as lowball offers, there's not been a plethora of buyers available right now, and other things that this just adds on to other things that we all have to deal with at this time as well. Owning a home is a responsibility. A home requires regular updates and maintenance, and owners who are good stewards of their property benefit not only themselves but also their communities. In return for all they put into their home, owners hope to achieve a measure of financial security when they finally do sell. But some longtime owners feel trapped in their homes long after they're ready to move out, causing a ripple effect that hits every segment of the market. That's because an outdated tax policy threatens their ability to fully enjoy the appreciation that they've earned. New research commissioned by the National Association of Realtors paints a startling picture. The current federal policy on capital gains taxes is steadily and quietly distorting the housing market, locking in older homeowners and strangling inventory just when America needs it most. So, yes, this is a huge issue currently with this outdated tax policy because right now it's threatening the appreciation that was promised to these homeowners over the years. And now is a time where we feel like, okay, we've earned that appreciation, we've earned a bit of equity, but now it's being threatened with these policies and it's becoming a big issue on top of the strangling inventory at a time where Americans need this, need it the most. Something to keep our eye on. The hitting cost of appreciation. Under the current tax law, homeowners can exclude up to 250,000 in capital gains from the sale of a primary residence if they file as single, or up to 500,000 for married couples filing jointly. These caps have remained unchanged since they were set in 1997, even as the value of homes has steadily climbed during this nearly 30-year period. A capital gains cliff is coming for the middle class, and we have the data to prove it, says Shanna McGain, NAR executive, vice president, and chief advocacy officer during the most recent episode of the Advocacy Scoop podcast, where the study was exclusively unveiled. So this is brutally attacking the middle class like most things in the world. The lower class more so aren't homeowners or don't have responsibilities when it comes to certain assets like real estate. And then the upper class, they are in a position where they can use strategies, tax strategies from the knowledge that they've obtained, the network that they've obtained over the years to avoid lots of tax penalties that we're speaking about. So, with that being said, for that reason, most of these problems are attacking the middle class, who it seems to be are being attacked from almost every aspect of the economy right now. And this isn't anything new. So this is why it's important to revisit some of these tax policies to make them inclusive for not only the upper class, but for the middle class as well. In fact, the middle class, as stated, is the ones, obviously right now needed the most. Okay. According to the study, 34% of homeowners, which is around 29 million, could already have enough equity in their homes to exceed that $250,000 cap. And over 10%, which is 8 million, could have enough to surpass the 500,000 threshold. Those numbers are projected to climb rapidly. And by 2030, more than 56% of homeowners could have equity exceeding the 250,000 exclusion, and by 2035 that could rise to nearly 70%, with over 38% surpassing that $500,000 mark. In states with exceptionally high price markets such as California, Massachusetts, and Colorado, the trend is even more pronounced. By 2035, 20 states are projected to have over 40% of homeowners possibly facing tax penalties simply for having built equity in their homes over time. So it's kind of like you're being penalized for doing what you were supposed to do as far as building your equity in your home over time and doing the things that you're supposed to make sure that your property is appreciating upwards and that you'll have that equity built in that is promised and we're told we can utilize when we cash the property out and sell. But with these tax penalties, that is not the case. That's not the case, and that is a huge problem. The stay put penalty. So there's also a penalty possibly for just staying put and not doing anything. And the effect is a disincentive that housing economists are calling a stay put penalty. So that's what they're calling this. Seniors in appreciating markets, many of whom have spent decades in their homes, are delaying moves they might otherwise make. And we talked about this in one of my last videos. There are things that can put you in danger for holding on too long. We also talked about downsizing. We talked about relocating. Okay, these are all important things when considering selling your property, especially as a senior. But the conflict becomes, how much do I stand to lose or gain based off of which move I decide to make? And unfortunately, it makes us overthink things, because if we know deep down inside we need to sell, but this economy and the current state of the housing market is pushing us into a way where we have to stay put even though we don't want to. And now that's even being penalized. So when it comes to making proper moves and you utilizing strategies that's best for you and your family, there's not really one clear path that homeowners who are looking to sell have currently. Downsizing, relocating closer to family, or shifting into assisted living can become a costly and sometimes impossible proposition, thanks to the looming tax bills. What's worse, their reluctance to sell means fewer homes are available for younger buyers. Entry level and move up inventory is squeezed, pushing prices higher and fueling a cycle of scarcity that frustrates first time buyers and growing families alike. So there's the scarcity tactic behind it as well. And that's why the mindset that you have going into selling your property, it makes all the difference. You don't want to go in with a scarcity mindset, because it does frustrate buyers. Just thinking back to what we discussed in the last video, there are sellers that are extremely stubborn, and they'll be willing to just sit for, you know, a extra few dollars, or not getting the favorable terms that they like. And a lot of that is because of this current market. So there becomes seller and buyer opposition. And a lot of times that opposition, unfortunately, destroys a lot of deals and keep transactions from happening. And when you look back at some of the data, and the numbers that where you may have started and where you ended up, or the number that you didn't take, you have to think, was it worth it? Now, this stagnation in housing turnover is rippling through the entire market, driving up costs and limiting opportunity. Exactly the opposite of what the public policy should be encouraging, Migon continued. And it grows worse each month. So this is getting worse. Now, this is something called the More Homes on the Market Act. I don't know what this is exactly, but I'm interested to see. So to address this looming crisis, NAR is supporting the More Homes on the Market Act, which is a bill that would update the capital gains exclusion threshold for the first time in nearly 30 years. Okay. Wow, that is what they need to do, because this bill hasn't been revisited in almost 30 years. And the capital gains tax has always been a problem. But like I mentioned, people in a higher tax bracket, investors who are in the upper class, they understand certain things to offset a lot of these tax burdens. But I'm glad to hear that they're revisiting this for, as a whole altogether. Now the legislation proposes to double the exclusion to 500,000 for individuals and 1 million for married couples. Okay. Adjust the caps to reflect future inflation. Adjust. I'm wondering. I'm wondering how they're going to project that future inflation. They're also going to free up millions of homes by reducing the tax disincentives to sell. Okay. According to the bill's sponsors, by modernizing this outdated provision, the act will restore fairness to the tax code and bring much needed fluidity back into the housing market. Even Littadard, NAR director of federal taxation, discussed NAR support for the bill during at tax discussion during I think it's meant to say during a tax discussion at the realtors legislative meeting. Now there were things that we were really pushing for as part of the tax reform that includes other pro real estate provisions, including the More Homes on the Market Act that would double the exclusion level for capital gains and make it so that older homeowners in their houses for a long time could be more willing to sell because they don't have to pay that big capital tax gain. So that would be huge. That would be a win. In fact, I was just speaking with another investor who was helping out another investor who was in the middle of completing the transaction for an apartment complex. It was a apartment complex. I want to say they were selling for 5 million. It was either they were selling for 5 million or the tax bill it was going to be like $1 million or something like that. And that capital gains tax is what was keeping the entire transaction from moving forward because the homeowner wanted to make sure that they're not going to get knocked upside the head when they sell that apartment building. And I don't blame them. I want to say they're 80 years old and they've had that building for a long time. And now they're finally ready to sell and they're looking at $1 million tax bill. Yeah, something to think about in these situations. Like getting penalized for doing the right thing. So the fact that they're open to revisit this and possibly adjust this tax bill situation with this what are they calling it? More homes on the market act. Yeah, I think that'd be a great thing to do. Even if they don't get it perfect on the first time, the fact that they're even open to, taking a look, I think is important. Equity shouldn't be a trap. Building equity shouldn't come with a penalty. It should come with opportunity. Congress created this exemption for a reason. Home ownership is the primary way middle class Americans build wealth. That's a fact. With homeowners having nearly 40 times the net worth of renters, Congress intended to incentivize home ownership and not hit the middle class with a giant home equity tax. So that's the end of this article. Wow, that's great news. I think it's great news. I think it's a win because these outdated tax rules are a problem. It's a problem, and it has been for a really long time. It really has. This has had homeowners looking to sell hands tied for quite some time. And you either could take that capital gains. There are ways that you could take those funds and roll it over into other investment vehicles, like other real estate properties, like insurance products, like retirement funds. But what does the seniors do who already have that intact, who don't want any more property, who already have enough investment vehicles, who are looking to liquidate for whatever reason? That is who this will help the most. And other investors or homeowners in general coming up who are in it for the long run, and when they age and become seniors, they don't want to have to go through a similar issue as this one. So great information, great news. That's all I have for this video. If you need any resources as far as it goes with real estate, if you're looking to sell and you're looking for more information, resources, anything that you need, we have a plethora of offerings in the description that could help you within your business or your life with your property. I look forward to it, to helping you, and thank you for watching this video. I hope you got some value out of it. Into the next video. Be good, do great. Peace.